Hello, and welcome back to the ancient world, everyone. Heir of Carthage here, and this is the Battle of Alaboo. Not the Battle of Alibi, where everybody has to make an excuse for why they weren't there. No, the Battle of Alaboo, where apparently there's a nice little hill right here in the middle, too. So, let's check out the teams. This is going to be a sub-commanders. Now, for those of you maybe not familiar, or for those of you returning, I guess I'll just go ahead and give it a quick explanation. Sub-commanders can be played with anywhere from 3 to 4 players, though probably even 2 if you do the rules right. But it's essentially where each player takes a specific role. And in 4-player sub-commanders, player 1 is the melee infantry, player 2 is the spears and missiles, player 3 is the cavalry, and player 4 is kind of a flex player who can do a little bit of any of it. So that is how it's set up, and we're already into some pretty hot action over here. I'm going to slow this down so we can check it out. Carthage is the cavalry player for the home team, as I will call them over here. And Carthage is a pretty cool pick for cavalry because they've had their noble cavalry reduced in cost, and more importantly, they've had Hannibal added as a general option, and he has 2 special abilities, one of which can make a couple of units temporarily faster, to help without flanking, and he's got another one called Thunderbolt, which can slow an enemy unit for a short amount of time. It basically makes him a great unit for kind of helping with a flank maneuver or to temporarily slow an enemy advance. So it can be very useful. Not to mention they have access to Mercenary Numidian Cavalry, which is an excellent skirmish cav. And then in this mod, they've been given some extra javelins too, which makes them a little more deadly in a skirmish. Carthaginian cav is pretty cost-effective medium melee cav. And then we're also going to see a Mercenary Numidian Noble Cav over here, which is a Jab Cav mixed with good Sword Cavalry. So it's kind of a hybrid unit. Carthage has 2 additional Carthaginian Cavalry back here at the main line for a little bit of extra force. It looks like player 2 is going to be the Parthian here, which again makes sense. They've got a Noble Horse Archer General. And they also have Eastern Slingers and Parthian Foot Archers. Parthian Foot Archers have good range, high damage. There's some Persian Light Archers and Eastern Javelin Men behind them as well. Eastern Spears and some Mercenary Hoplites and Persian Hoplites guarding those spears. And then as far as melee infantry, it actually looks like that role is being filled by the Etruscans. So that's going to be a good choice there. We got an Etruscan Guard, 2 Sam Knights, an Italian Noble Cap General, Umbrian Hillmen. I do believe Umbrians have the Ignore Terrain. Yeah, so they can move at full speed across any terrain. So any unit that has the Umbrian title in the Sam Knight roster. Then we're going to have the Numidians doing player 4, and they've got a mixture of spears, a little bit of cheap sword infantry, an armored Numidian rider. Let's keep checking out this cavalry play here. There is some really focused fight going on out here with Hannibal, and I want to catch that. So I'm actually going to pause it and finish this, and we'll come watch that fight because I feel like we're going to miss something good potentially. So anyway, yeah, that's the home team army here. And then when we're looking at the red team here, it's going to be Dacia taking up the player 2 role, and they're going to have some spear warriors up front. Their skirmish line is going to be Dacian heavy bowmen. These are slightly better armored skirmishers and really do pretty good damage over range. It looks like a Dacian heavy skirmisher on each flank, which is a peltist essentially. And then we've got some spears behind the main lines for the Dacians, and then their general is not visible at the moment. Or yeah, he is. He's over here in an armored bow horseman. So that must be an addition as well. I don't believe this unit was available to... I call them Dacia. I don't think that's actually their name on here, and I forget it sometimes, but Getae. Yeah, so, but yeah, I don't think that was available to the Getae roster. We've got Hippeus Lancers over here, and some Noble Blood Cavalry. This is going to be, I believe, is this, is Colchis. So this is Colchis here. They got the Hippeus Lancers, Noble Blood Cav. Wow, several Noble Blood Cavs, 3 of those at least, and then they've got a Horse Skirmisher mixed in. Noble Blood Cav are very good melee cavalry. 3 horse skirmishers over there, and 2 horse skirmishers, horse archer. The Iceni are going to do the skirmish, and looks like they are the mixed players. So Iceni's player 4. They've got some sword band and spears, scout riders, and levy freemen, and then I think they have another levy freeman supporting the other flank. And then finally, we're going to have, I believe, Kush here in the middle. Yeah, because they have the Shotel warriors, Royal Kushite archers, slave infantry, pikes and more slave infantry. I had someone leave a comment that says if you pick slave infantry, it's like an auto lose. Why would you ever pick them? I think whoever made that comment doesn't understand this game mode. In this game mode, numbers are very important. It's not always that numbers win everything, but it's only 5,000 funds for each player. So 190, I believe, is what these slave infantry go for, and that is a really good price for a unit that can chuck a couple of cheap javelins and absorb charges and stuff. So it does definitely play a role on the battlefields of sub-commanders. So let's check out this Hannibal stuff here. Now, I did see Hannibal's stuff active there for a moment, though it doesn't look like it is now. This may be a bait here. The Carthaginian cavalry trying to maybe bait javelins off of the levy freemen and staying at the edge of range. That would be my guess. Carthage, like I said, they can be quite dangerous on horseback these days. We'll see how that plays out. Looks like the main lines are approaching each other. That is a lot of Dacian heavy bowmen, but this other army has the benefit of being kind of concealed in the woods. So it's going to be interesting to see who would win that ultimately. Because right now, both teams have some pretty significant skirmish capability between the Dacian heavy bows, the Parthian foot archers, and the Eastern slingers. I mean, there's quite a bit of firepower involved on both sides. It's like Carthage got away with quite a lot of cat and mouse. They took out most of that Briton scout rider. If we look at the kills here, there's about 50 kills so far of the mercenary Numidian cav, which is not insubstantial. Then the mercenary nobles, none yet, but that's a unit you would like to hold till late in combat, kind of like this noble horse archer. Let them shoot as much as possible. These units are extremely valuable in the late game because infantry units are hurt, their hit points are low, and they've been battered in all the combat up to that point. And then these armored cavalrymen come in late in the game, and they can be very difficult for certain units to stop. Especially if they have high attack, kind of like the noble horse archers, but especially like the the Numidian noble, mercenary Numidian noble cavalry. So we'll see what happens here. It looks like both teams kind of aiming to square off. Many of the units for the home team are hidden, so this is also probably scouting in many ways for the red team here, trying to scout out the position of the home team, because some of their units are visible, the others are not. Clearly they're going to know something's hidden in these woods. They just don't know exactly what yet, but they will certainly know something's hidden there. So yeah, we'll just kind of see how this begins to play out. It looks like units nearly in missile range, but not quite. This Carthaginian cavalry has a very aggressive order coming, and that could be very dangerous with the heavy bowmen back there. It looks like it's going to pull off of that early. Yeah, maybe with the intention of drawing the volley. Yeah, and then falling back. I don't know. But yeah, definitely a good decision to pull back those Dacian heavy bowmen. That might as well have been like running straight into a Gatling gun. That was not going to be pretty for Carthage. Yeah, there's already some fire coming in, though. Those Briton slingers now are going to start pitching their shots in. It looks like maybe they're going for the Eastern slingers, possibly the Samnite warriors. Yeah, no, it looks like the Eastern slingers are the target for the moment. Briton slingers and Eastern slingers are a pretty close match. Looks like Hannibal's moving over towards the center here. And that is going to be Hannibal's special ability there. That's the outmaneuver ability, which is going to make a unit faster. And then you can see there that they immediately use the Intimidate on Hannibal, which would not allow a follow-up Thunderbolt. But look how quickly that Carthaginian cavalry was able to close the distance. That was the Thunderbolt. It came in late on that Briton slinger and kept it from retreating. So the Carthaginian cavalry is going to be utterly sacrificed, but it is going to cause a pretty big distraction here, because now the home team is going to be able to move all their skirmishers into firing position while the enemy is having to deal with that Carthaginian cavalry. We'll see whether or not that turns out to be worth it. It didn't really do a lot of damage. It only got 3 kills before being driven out. But you can see how Hannibal's abilities have the potential to be quite dangerous. The Noble Blood Cavalry looks like they are out for blood and are pushing forward. The Umbrian Hillmen are going to ward them off. They won't want to face full of javelins. There's Shotel warriors and other units making a push, and that is going to be warded off by Carthage, who comes screaming in now with the mercenary Numidian cav, and then they're going to fall back. Just kind of a game of cat and mouse here to see who takes the bait first. All these games are important early on. There's a lot of positioning and kind of cat and mouse type tactics that go on in these whenever teams are playing at a higher level. And it's in order to get someone to make a mistake. And sometimes when someone makes a mistake, you can kind of begin a wrap-up process. If they start to lose control in one area, you can take advantage of that and keep pushing. That doesn't always mean you're going to win, but it's certainly a good, I would say, a good potential to help you win if you're able to take advantage. Think of it like a turnover in an American football match. Like you turn the ball over. Doesn't guarantee that you're going to win when you get a takeaway, but it's certainly increasing your odds by a lot. Carthaginian cavalry here just flattened that Levy Freeman, who was not braced for that charge. And here comes another Carthaginian cavalry looking to get that sword band, and it will. There are Numidian light infantry in the vicinity to help ward off the enemy spears. And then those Carthaginian Numidian cav there are going to be dangerous as well. Those Umbrian hillmen trading blows with the spearmen. And over here we're going to have that noble blood cavalry pushing in. It's going to get blocked by the Umbrian hillmen. Probably headed back here towards the horse archers, but it could have been intentionally going for the hillmen. It may have, because it got a lot of kills there. However, that puts it in range of that noble horse archer and potentially in a fair bit of danger. That Persian hoplite's going to do a decent job of holding the Kushite slave infantry, and then that Levy Freeman. You can see there's a lot of cavalry support out there, so a little bit of early melee clashes going on here between the lighter units. No one's engaged their heavier, more elite units yet. That's a big ability going down there. That's going to be unity of the tribes, so that's going to improve morale across the board here. I believe that one came from the Britons, or the Iceni, I guess, in this case. So yeah, we'll kind of keep looking at these engagements. More Eastern Spears coming out to kind of hold the line. There's a Samnite now reinforcing this fight, so it looks like some of the heavy infantry being activated there. Certainly not all. Noble Blood Cav here helping out against the Numidian light infantry that had gotten a decent early engagement there. That mercenary Numidian noble cavalry is nearby, definitely looking to get some javelins into that high-value target. And sometimes you'll see these javelin volleys come in early, and you won't see a lot of damage in terms of entities dying, but what is happening there definitely is that hit points are being dropped. That was a war cry that just went down on that unit, I believe. Yeah, it's a morale buster, so the war cry went in there. The Carthaginian cavalry is going to be used to fix these units, and then I'm imagining, yeah, the Jav Cav is going to come in, and it's going to be looking for a piece of that Noble Blood Cav for sure. It's a vulnerable target right there, and you did see those javelins did make a difference, because right there a lot of entities were lost. When I'm looking at the skirmish fight right now, the red team is doing well. Their skirmishers appear to be in good shape. I see an Eastern Slinger over here wavering. That Eastern Slinger's taking some damage. Numidian heavy skirmishers taking some damage, so it feels like the Getae and the Iceni are doing well from a skirmish standpoint. There's ever more infantry being committed by the home team. The danger here, though, is when they commit that, the enemy infantry is still a long ways back. There's a lot of skirmishers. Those skirmishers can really chew up an infantry unit if they get good focus fire, and can make that infantry essentially combat ineffective if it takes enough hit point damage. This game won't show you hit points up on a unit bar. That was something that got added later in Total War, which was a nice addition. But that hit point system is still in place. That unit has a number of hit points equal to the hit points per man times the number of entities. And it's definitely in place. And typically the armor and hit points will wear down early, and then you'll start to see entities die out. But see, like right here, that Samnite warrior is going to start taking hits, and it looks like they're not really taking any damage, but they are. They are definitely taking hit point damage. So they'll not want to sit there and just take a whole bunch of fire, because then later on when they come into the fight, they could likely lose to what would have otherwise been a peer in a melee engagement. Carthage got a little bit of a problem. There's a lot of spears here, and their cavalry is trying to ward it off. And a lot of those lighter infantry for the home team have been lost at this point. Many of them are engagements. They are mostly gone, so there's not a lot of lighter infantry left to screen off the Iceni spears on that flank. The Samnite's still under fire, and you end up in a tough position here when this happens. Like, your unit's going to be under fire. If you charge, it'll probably be too early. If you turn around and move back, you're going to get shot in the back. And all of these options are bad. So sometimes, though, you kind of just have to cut your loss. But look at this, the focus fire on that Sam Knight. So the enemy team right now is looking to shut down any melee potential for the home team, and the home team's going to have to do something about it. They're going to need to do something about it relatively quick, because I don't think they can afford to lose. And see, like, this is a bait here to get the Sam Knight to go after that unit and just continue to be shot. So that's a good call by the red team there. You can't ignore a unit running up to your front lines, but if you go attack it, it can actually kind of be against you in terms of doing any good. So Armored Numidian Riders still squaring off with those horse skirmishers and the horse archers, though the horse archers look like they've taken a pretty big toll, or have lost a lot of units, I should say. And then the Noble Blood Calves, same thing. Comes another spear unit presenting itself to the Sam Knights. All of this will wear down the Sam Knights, and likely that's where I think that the Kush are hoping their units will be enough to finish this fight. But we'll see. There's still a fair bit of infantry left over here. I see at least 3 heavy infantry units left, no 4, that are in good shape. So, and if I'm looking at the other side, we got a Shotel Warrior, 2, 3, and then pikes, and some light infantry. So the infantry fight's probably not too far one way or the other for either team. Still a lot of skirmishers for both teams too. The home team has these Persian light archers and Parthian foot archers. There's not a lot of Eastern slingers left, though some still exist. We'll see what happens. There's only so much ammunition too, so both teams will have to watch their ammunition. Carthaginian cavalry had that special ability from Hannibal again to get out on the charge, and was used to crash into that spear band, but I'm not sure how great of an effect that will have. Carthage still has their work cut out for them over here. They probably don't have enough javelins to rip through that many infantry units. There's a heavy skirmisher headed out here too, and that unit will be dangerous. If it gets charged by like that Numidian noble cav, it'll get eaten alive. However, if it gets some javelins off in those units, it can quickly become very valuable. Looks like the Kushite pikes are being used to push forward and try and fix the home team's line here. You can always maneuver away from pikes, though. They cannot really attack on the run. And see, like, this unit was run in and then put into a pike phalanx, so it's going to take it some time to try and get into an effective formation. So pikes definitely suffer in terms of maneuverability. Here comes some Briton slingers that have spent their ammo. They're going to try and hold these units from retreating so that the pikes can be more effective. That's not a bad call. The Shotel Warriors got some big damage done on a charge, and then they were retreating back, I think hoping to get a fresh charge. And they will, against those mercenary hoplites. But there's a Fortify on there from the Etruscan, and that'll help definitely as far as bracing goes. It makes that unit a lot tougher against the charge, but those Shotel Warriors have a brutal charge nonetheless. The Etruscan general has some cool abilities. The Fortify and it's like some kind of fight to the death ability. I don't remember what it's called, but man, they are cool abilities, and they can be very, very good when used properly. Look at this Armored Numidian Rider now harassing over here. There is a Desert Pagile over here to help fix, and then that Noble Blood Cavalry is going to take a charge from the Armored Numidian Riders, which can be a pretty painful charge. Looks like Carthage is around the flank now with their cavalry, potentially wanting to threaten skirmishers, but there's still a lot of enemy units over here, including a heroic rider, and that armored bow horseman, another noble blood cav, a Chaos Lancer. There's still a lot of cavalry in reserve for the red team, and all these skirmish cav as well. In fact, the red team's showing a little bit of a advantage in the power bar. That's a Intimidate over there. Just gonna prevent ability use for a short time. It's a very useful general ability. It didn't used to be very useful, but it is now, especially since general abilities are better. Noble Blood Cav coming around for another charge, but it looks like the Carthaginians pulling out. All these cavalry are back in behind enemy lines. Looks like they're kind of doing a little bit of skirmishing with the Noble Blood Cav here. It's a good call. Those are expensive units. Still a big skirmish fight going on. I'm going to try and look for daggers out. I don't see daggers out on a lot of these bow units, which means they still have ammunition. I can see this one firing over here. This Eastern Javelinman's in pretty good shape. Be curious to see if they still have their javelins and if they're able to deliver them into a high-value target. Ooh, Mercenary Numidian Noble into a spear unit, but they are brutally effective in combat against lightly armored units. And these Levy Freemen don't possess a lot of armor piercing. They have a good bonus versus large. There's only 45 armor on the mercenary Numidian nobles, but they have a really high attack, and it was enough to overpower that spear unit. And they're going to stay away from those Dacian heavy skirmishers, which was a good call. Those heavy skirmishers would be bad news indeed for any cavalry unit hanging out within javelin range. Carthaginian cavalry pushing here. Colchi's cavalry falling back. Let's take a look here. We got some Etruscan Guard engaged over here. Now, the Etruscan Guards is an axe unit, I believe, so it's going to do heavy armor piercing. And with the general abilities in play, a unit like the Etruscan Guard can do tremendous amounts of damage in melee if those general abilities are used at the right time and with the right unit. Samnite Warriors over here, both getting a lot of kills in that fight. There's Shotel Warrior in there, which will cut through armor. Look at this. We've got a Head Hurler, which remember is kind of a cool support unit now. And there's a Noble Blood Cab pushing through. Looks like the Noble Horse Archer hoping to maybe intercept that. Then there's an Armored Numidian Rider, so that Noble Blood Cavalry, it's going to kill those Persian Light Archers, but it's also going to die. However, it could also create a target for those Dacian Heavy Bowmen to lob their arrows into, and that's precisely what's happening here. So we'll see whether or not this will pay off. There's a lot of enemy skirmishers kind of tied up there, and then there's a Hippeus Lancer pushing through. Now Hannibal's going to have to fall back. Oh, that Hippeus Lancer, though, is going to get absolutely... yeah, it is the Lancer. It's going to get shredded. Didn't get a single kill. Got absolutely annihilated. That Lancer got ahead of itself, and that's probably going to make a difference in the power bar. And then as far as the melee is going... the Etruscan Guard ends up overmatched over here. It gets surrounded. The Head Hurlers doing a number there. It does have the Relentless, which is improving attack, but that goes best too when you can throw the Fortify up there with it. So the Etruscan Guard's struggling, but you can see how it starts popping off a lot more kills there when it gets that Relentless. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, it's going to get completely surrounded. So the Etruscan Guard got caught kind of out on its own. On the other flank, though, the melee went a lot better for the home team. The Samnite Warriors racked up a good number of kills and were able to defeat a different Shotel Warrior. So a very drawn-out fight here, going in many phases. Dacian Heavy Bowmen out of ammunition. These ones still have ammo. Those Dacian Bowmen do have ammo, I believe. Heavy skirmishers throwing stuff. The slingers have daggers out. Let's check out the Parthian archers. Javelin men still have javelins. These archers are daggers out. And daggers out. So I'm not sure there's much ammunition left for the home team. Unless it's on some of their cavalry. Oh, those Head Hurlers, when they threw their heads there, it seemed to, like, almost blunt the charge of that Numidian rider. I don't know if y'all saw that or not, but it's like it slowed them down and almost made them hesitate, and it killed their melee attack. That was interesting. They're going to get charged from behind by the heavy skirmisher. That'd be a good way to fix those units, but those Head Hurlers made a huge impact on that armored Numidian rider. It's going to double back and should be able to finish off the Head Hurler, but that was an interesting thing to see there. I wonder if that happens every time if you throw them at a cavalry charge. It's almost like it blunted the cavalry charge. There's still a lot of cavalry over here for Carthage, and it's just kind of circling like sharks. Those heavy, or the bowmen and the heavy skirmishers have moved up close to unload their ammunition. It looks like they're going for those Numidian riders. Not a bad choice, but they're going to get countercharged now. The armored bow horseman does have ammo, but they're being chased off. That heroic rider now being harassed big time. Now remember, Numidians carry more javelins in this mod than they did in standard Rome 2. That's kind of meant to differentiate them, since they aren't like a capable melee combatant, really. They carry the extra javelins. Got a Shotel warrior in here, and that is going to absolutely shred those heavy skirmishers. Those Samnite warriors look like they have been dealt with in the meantime as well. So this battle's coming down closer to the end here. This Mercenary Numidian Noble Cavalry is one to keep an eye on. There's a Relentless there on the Shotel Warriors. Pulls that into the breach. Noble Cavalry is just going to take a quick hit and get out of there. It's probably a good call. The Shotel Warrior is a dangerous unit. But Slave Infantry is about to get pounded there. So the Mercenary Hoplites being used to hold them. And let's see, look at this, the Desert Cavalry here. Numidian Riders catching up to the Armored Bow Horsemen. It doesn't look like it's going well for the Bow Horses. That Heroic Rider is here, but it's trying to block another one of these Numidian Cavalry, or sorry, it's a Numidian, Armored Numidian, and then Mercenary Numidians are going to wheel up and pitch their Javelins into it. So that's bad news for the Iceni player. Let's keep an eye out where that Noble Numidian now has almost 200 kills. And again, this makes them very dangerous late in the game. These infantry units don't have a way to fix this thing. And so they're getting countercharged by it, and it has very high attack. And it's got decent mass. So it does a lot of damage. And then look here, very late charge there by the Mercenary Numidian Cav. Going to be a follow-up from the Noble Horse Archers over here. Carthage's cavalry is going to be quite dangerous at this stage of the game because the red team just doesn't have a way to slow them down, really. They do have that Heroic Rider, but it's off chasing the skirmish units, and I think most of those skirmish units are out of ammunition. Maybe they're the exception of those Eastern Javelins. Now that Heroic Riders kind of come back here and dive in, it's going to get completely surrounded. So I believe that Hannibal's cavalry here may come in clutch and finish this battle. We shall see, because this Noble Cavalry here is going to be brutally effective against these infantry units late in the game. The Shotel Warriors, of course, can cause a lot of damage in return, but they're kind of out on an island. They don't have any support, and there's a lot of cavalry charging in. They get surrounded, they get attacked in the back. Look at that, 260 kills and climbing rapidly for the Mercenary Numidian Nobles. It's cool to see those units get held to the end, because that is certainly where they are most effective. And that was an interesting battle. That was a very long battle, which this happens sometimes in these because there's a lot of units and a lot of players. It can be a long time for it to develop if the players are playing a good game, like we saw here. So thank you to Vortigant Sauce, Sim, Alexander, Soul, Magnus, Ninja Keeper, Number, and Hannibal's Heir. A really fantastic game for all the players. We'll take a look to see who got the most kills. It looks like that award is going to go to Vortigant Sauce here with his Numidians, or Masazeli. I'm just calling them Numidians, so got a lot of kills there. Spread across multiple units, too. So it wasn't any one unit that really racked it up there. And then for the Etruscan League, honestly, you got pretty good results out of those Samnite Warriors. Can't complain with that. I think the Etruscan Guard was the only unit that went down without quite as many kills. I didn't get a chance to see the Noble Cavalry in action. Alexander here picking up the Parthian skirmish. Again, spread out the kills pretty well across his army, especially considering some of these are cheap units. And he got a lot of kills at 923. Nice work with that Noble Horse Archer. Soul playing that Carthaginian cavalry. Man, Carthaginian cav is a thing of beauty in this mod. It really is. It's got a unique niche to it. They're not the most punishing melee cavalry. They're not the best skirmishers per se, but those extra javelins, the cost effectiveness. Carthage has some nice niche in the cavalry role in this mod, and that Numidian noble, as I mentioned early, they are deadly late if they get left into there, so be patient with those units. Try and save them for the right moment. Magnus here taking on Colchis. Boy, he was up in an epic skirmish back and forth with Soul, and also with, let's see, those other cavalry would have been from Vortigant Sauce, so that was a tricky skirmish, and he did a good job to hold off for a very long time. The Noble Blood Cav are very dangerous units. They didn't end up getting as many kills as they can in the right scenario here. Ninja Keeper here with the Iceni. I like the Iceni. They're a very capable faction in multiple roles. I like the pick of the Heroic Rider here to give some extra cavalry, as well as the Britain Scout Riders. I think this was a nice pick for player 4. And then Number here with the Getae, that is a brutal skirmish line. He did a pretty solid job with it through most of that fight. So good job there to Number. And then Hannibal's Heir here with the good old Kush melee infantry line. And Kush, of course, very, very good at that. Hey, remember people saying don't bring slave infantry? Look at 118 kills on a slave infantry. 110 kills on a slave infantry. 49 kills on a slave infantry. And you can't beat that price, I'm telling you. So there's definitely a place for those cheap infantry in the game. So anyway, hope you all enjoyed this one. HeirofCarthage signing out for now. Thanks again to the players. I will see you soon with some more action in Total War Rome 2.